Hey Dragon Slayers! Today's video is about eating to keep insulin low, controlling carbohydrates, part 1. So, eating to keep insulin low. Now we've come to what may be the most important lifestyle change that you could possibly ever make. The most scientifically sound diet to improve insulin resistance is one that keeps insulin low. Every aspect of your diet, what you eat, when you eat it, is a means to that end. As you embrace nutritional changes to become more insulin sensitive and help control your health, here are Dr. Bikman's 4 vital pillars that provide the foundation of a smart plan. Number 1 is to control carbohydrates. Number 2 is to prioritize protein. And number 3 is to fill with fat. And number 4 is to watch the clock. As evidence of just how powerful these seemingly simple recommendations are, let me share a recent experience Dr. Benjamin Bikman had in his own lab. In working with a local clinic, he had 11 women with type 2 diabetes follow these instructions for only 90 days, with no changes in exercise, no counting calories, and remarkably, without the use of any medications at all. The type 2 diabetes was gone in just 90 days. Controlling carbohydrates is the first and most fundamental principle for rapidly and effectively controlling insulin. Now, due to inherent metabolic differences among all people, it simply isn't possible to establish a one-size-fits-all strategy. Your ideal composition of macronutrients, that is, the percentage of calories from fat, protein, and carbohydrates, can vary, but no matter what, ends up being the right balance for you. Carbohydrates will constitute a far smaller part of the diet than is typical at the conventional and ubiquitous Western diet, which is typically 50 to 60% carbohydrates. And that's a good thing. When we're looking to reverse this trend that the diet has brought on, is to obviously go away from the trend of the standard American diet or the SAD diet. If you have any sign of insulin resistance, i.e., you have fat around your belly, high blood pressure, a family history of heart disease, high triglycerides, retain water easily, have patches of darker colored skin or skin tags, have a family member with type 2 diabetes, PCOS, or erectile dysfunction, just to name a few symptoms, then you're less tolerant of carbohydrates and therefore will need to be more cautious of the type and amount of carbohydrates you eat. If you answered yes to only one or none of those things, those signs that I just mentioned, then you'll have more room for carbohydrates in your diet. The reason for this is simply due to how likely your body will need to make more insulin and keep levels higher for longer to clear glucose from your blood after eating. Remember that while carbohydrates spark a robust increase in insulin, though there is a broad range, broccoli has little effect, while potato chips will have a large effect. Protein will have a modest effect, and dietary fat will have almost no effect. With this in mind, here are some general macronutrient ranges, percentages of calories from fat, protein, and carbohydrates that may be helpful as you plan a new nutrition plan to improve or prevent insulin resistance. So if you answered yes to 2 or more of those questions that I stated earlier in the video, you're going to want 70% of your calories from fat, 25% of them from protein, and 5% from carbohydrates. Generally less than 50 grams of carbohydrates a day. If you answered yes to 1, then you'll want to do 65% of your calories from fat, 25% from protein, and 10% from carbohydrates. Generally less than 75 grams of carbohydrates per day. If you answered yes to none of the questions and you want to keep it that way, you have more freedom. He'd recommend around 55% of calories from fat, 20 to 25% of your calories from protein, 25% of your calories from protein and maybe 20% from carbs, or 55% fat, 30% protein, 15% carbs. Generally, you're going to want to keep your carbohydrates less than 100 grams per day. And keep in mind that these ranges may require some optimization on your part. These numbers are not meant to be final. And note that eating less than 50 grams of carbohydrates per day is likely to be ketogenic in the vast majority of people. If you're uncomfortable with this and feel strongly that you need more carbs, make every effort to focus on low glycemic vegetables and fruits. One thing for all to keep in mind: you don't need to be constantly in ketosis to enjoy the insulin sensitizing benefits of a carbohydrate controlled or smart carb approach. When it comes to fruits and vegetables, strive to balance carbohydrates and nutrients. Choose foods high in nutrients and low in carbohydrates. Be careful to avoid over-consuming high starch vegetables such as squashes, potatoes, and high sugar fruits like bananas, pineapples, or apples. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. And remember, guys, that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.